Okay, class. Today is April 24th. It's Friday. The semester is coming towards an end, and I just want to make sure that we finish strong. I'm not exactly sure how the rest of your classes are going or what your other teachers are doing, but what I was hoping to make sure you can get done is through the movies that we've seen and through the YouTube links that I've given you and through some of the early discussions we've had in class, I want you to have a broader understanding and visual idea of what's going on in the world, right? Lately, we've been focusing a lot on Africa, Northern Africa and Central Africa, talking about things like colonialism and war. Those are things that are similar. Similar things happened in South America, similar things happened in Southeast Asia. This is not something that is unique just to Africa, but Africa was particularly screwed by a lot of European powers. I wanted you to see the visuals of war, see the visuals of terrorism, and just some of the natural aspects. What do the people look like? Where are people coming from? From watching Pirates of Somalia, and I don't know how many of you guys actually watched Pirates of Somalia, because most of you guys didn't answer the questions, which is disappointing to me, and we'll come back to you. In Pirates of Somalia, you should see a person, Jay Badahor, who's similar to you guys. Somebody in school, graduated school, had a dead-end job or like a bullshit job that he didn't really love, working with like toilet paper in supermarkets and doing market research. And he took a chance. He had the courage to go somewhere where nobody else wanted to go, do interviews that nobody else wanted to do, and he came back an expert in his field, right? It takes years of practice and ingenuity and discipline to get great at something. And what I want you to get out of college is figuring out that you have these same capabilities to do great things. And that's why I gave you those movies to watch, to understand what's happening in the world, but to also understand that there's unique ways to look at what's happening in the world. Because if you just watch the media or listen to like just the quick basic stuff on the internet, you'll be like, oh, yeah, Somalia is a shithole. Rwanda is a shithole. All these places are terrible. When in reality, we have to understand why may they be struggling, and what can we do to maybe make it a little bit better, right? Or have a little bit more empathy or sympathy for the people that are around us. So guys, you have to catch up to the movies because I'm just going to keep giving you more movies, right? I'm not like asking you to do a whole bunch of work. The questions I'm asking you are not difficult. They're things that high school kids could do. If you're not watching the movies, it better be because you have like an essential job that's like necessary. But if you're home a lot, watch these movies. They're going to make you, I think, a more well-rounded individual and have a better understanding of the world around us. I'm going to tell you about two more movies that I would like you to watch and that are already on the blackboard in the top hat. So find the links in the documents that I've sent you. One is called Jiro, I Dream of Sushi. And the other is called Searching for Sugar Man. Both of these are documentaries. Both of these documentaries actually won Academy Awards and were nominated for Best Documentaries. And each one has to do with something that I call soft power, right? Remember we discussed there's hard power and there's soft power. In hard power, that's military and economic force, violence, using might. Right? Might makes right. Then there's soft power. Soft power is culture, food, nature, like places you go on vacation. Let's use Mexico, for example. Mexico might be a soft power superpower. You go anywhere in the world, they know what tacos are, what burritos are, what Mexican food is. Mexico also has the second most amount of airports in the world and is one of the top 10 destinations for travel, right? So when we think of Mexico in the United States, I know a lot of people think of spring break, resorts, Cabo, Acapulco, Cancun. These are all tourist locations that we love, that we enjoy, that help us settle down and relax, right? Get some R&R. And so that's one of Mexico's power. We don't always associate it with like a military power. We associate it with like, Oh yeah, I know Mexican people. I know their culture. I know their music. I know their food. It develops a connection. And soft power is how we would like to influence the world, right? If you're going to be convinced to do something, you want it to be done through words and kindness as opposed through violence, right? Or bullying per se. So I'm going to give you a little background of each movie, and I'm going to put questions on Top Hat, right? Where you need to answer these questions about these movies. So I'm aware that you're watching the movies and getting what's valuable out of the movies, right? Searching for Sugar Man is a story about a man from Detroit whose name was Sixto Rodriguez. His name is Sixto because he was the sixth child born in his family, right? He is from Detroit, but there's an incredible, and he was a musician. He was actually under Bill Withers' label. People compared him to an early Bob Dylan. They thought he was going to revolutionize the music industry. He was making music in the 60s and 70s, and then he stopped making music. Nobody bought his albums. He's somebody that had an incredible amount of talent. People loved his music. He worked with people that were top in the industry. But for some reason, regular people like us didn't feel the need to buy his record and album. And so he disappeared. He just became a construction worker. He was living his own life. Nobody thought anything of it. But then, 30 years later, 1998, his daughter found a website about her dad. Miraculously, 30 years earlier, some girl bought his album. That girl then traveled to South Africa. That girl then gave the album to her boyfriend, who loved it. Then his friends who listened to the album loved it. Then everybody in South Africa loved the album. He literally became a mythical figure. His albums sold more like Sixto Rodriguez sold more albums than the Beatles and Elvis Presley did in South Africa. He became one of the top 3 artists ever in South Africa. And what made him loved by the people of South Africa was they used his music like we use Jimi Hendrix's music or the Doors' music. It was kind of like revolutionary music during Vietnam. But what was going on in South Africa in the 80s and 90s was racism. The way we had segregation in the United States in the 40s and 50s, South Africa had segregation all the way into the 90s, all the way until Nelson Mandela came. So it was a very racist culture. It was a violent culture. It was an angry culture. But the groups of people that were fighting for peace in South Africa, they fell in love with Sixto Rodriguez's music. And they kept playing it. They kept sharing it. His music became a soundtrack for their revolution. The funny thing was, the people of South Africa thought Sixto Rodriguez was dead. Until somebody in the late 90s decided, oh, I want to make a movie about this guy. And in the process of making the movie, they called the daughter, and the daughter goes, oh, do you want to speak to my dad? And it changed South Africa forever. Imagine Tupac Shakur came back to life, somebody that people loved, and they're like, oh, he's dead, right? Elvis is dead. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, wait up, he's alive. But this time it wasn't a conspiracy, it was the truth. And so this movie, the reason I'm giving it to you to watch, you will learn about the music industry in America. You will learn about South Africa. You will learn about apartheid and violence in South Africa. You'll learn things like segregation. And you'll start to see similarities between racism that existed here in the United States and racism that existed in South Africa. Racism exists everywhere. And so I don't want you to feel like it's a United States invention, right? It's everywhere, but every side has its own flavor. And so I want you to really watch that movie and understand. And plus, I also believe Sixto Rodriguez is somebody that we can all learn from as individuals. Somebody that's been through a lot. Somebody that had a dream and lost their dream, but continued to live their life, right? They didn't become depressed or sad or, complacent. They kept moving, and then eventually the dream came back. It is one of the most miraculous tales I've ever watched. And the music is fantastic, right? So if you're a fan of music, if you're a fan of culture, the truth, if you're somebody that is in a sad place at the moment, trying to figure out what are you going to do after college or whatever, I believe it's like an uplifting story of just following your heart, doing great things, and then you never know what could happen. And you never know which audience you might find that will love your music, right? He's somebody that couldn't make it here in America, but he found his right voice. And we live in a world now where you could go on YouTube or Spotify or Pandora. You can put your music out there. You could put your art out there. You could put your writing out there. You could put your poetry out there. You could create video games and throw it out there. You could literally do anything, many things nowadays, and put them out there. So find your audience. And within geography, I mean, hopefully this is helping you, you know? Anime used to be something that was huge in just Japan. Now it's a global phenomenon. One of the guys the Giants drafted, this guy Dalvin Tomlinson, he's from Alabama. He's a football player, and he loves anime, and he's like a great artist as well. You never know who likes what now, right? Stereotypes are slowly dissolving. So please watch Searching for Sugar Man, and I will have questions for you on Top Hat for that. And please watch all the other movies that I'm giving you too, right? And answer those questions. Okay, the other movie that I want you to watch this week, right? It's 2 movies a week about, is called Jiro, I Dream of Sushi, right? This is another tale of some hardship. Jiro is from Japan. You should be learning about Japanese culture from this movie. You're also going to learn about sushi. You're also going to learn about the environment. You're going to understand about family values in Japan, and also just how the world responds to food, right? And how is food impactful to our lives, the world around us, and our culture. Next week, I'm also going to give a little mini documentary about food. We are what we eat. So Jiro, I Dream of Sushi. Jiro was a man who got kicked out of his home at 7 years old, right? Me, there's still things like I need to call my mom and dad about, like, you know, like just like, hey, where's this? Imagine being on your own at 7. What do? Right? So he got a job, and he started working at a sushi place. In the process of working for a sushi place at 7 years old, he became immersed in it. Without work, he can't eat, right? He was living on the streets. And so working in this sushi place, he began to develop a love for sushi. He said he started dreaming about sushi, coming up with new flavors, new ways to serve it, present it, new ways to cut the fish. Jiro right now is 85 years old. He has been making sushi for almost 80 years. Remember I said it takes 10 years to become a master at something? Jiro has been doing this 7 times longer than it takes to become a master. He is considered the greatest sushi chef in the world. Also, his restaurant is considered to be the most expensive sushi restaurant in the world. Each meal only lasts 25 minutes long and costs $350. The amazing thing about his restaurant is that it is ranked with a 3-star Michelin restaurant. Michelin is a French service, right? To get a 3-star restaurant, that means your restaurant is good enough where people from all over the world will fly to your restaurant just to eat at your restaurant. Meaning people will fly to Paris just to have a meal at this one restaurant and leave. And so people will go to a 3-star restaurant, and that'll be the center of their vacation. The amazing thing about Jiro's 3-star restaurant is that it only seats 10 people and that it is in a subway station. It's miraculous. The head chef that gives out the 3-star ratings said there's nothing else we could give Jiro. It doesn't matter if his ambiance is not perfect or that if it's in a subway station, because the food is perfect. And in the process, you will see how tough he is on his children who work for him and the workers who work for him. It takes 10 years for you to work at his restaurant for him to trust you enough to make the sushi. If you work 10 years at his restaurant and you get good enough to make his sushi, you can literally go anywhere in the world and start your own sushi restaurant. And people will give you $1 million to start that restaurant. It's almost like becoming a doctor in sushi. But you don't get a certificate, right? It's not like, oh, you graduated CSI, so we give you a degree. No, it's you graduated the school of Jiro, someone who is so disciplined, so tough, so organized, so respected in the world that they know the only way for you to be able to thrive under Jiro is that you yourself can also be a master. And I think there's something so beautiful about that, because some of you are going to graduate CSI and you worked hard and you're going to get a good degree. And some of you are going to graduate CSI and you didn't work hard and you'll still get a degree. And some of you people that have the degree and worked hard, you may feel a little bit jealous, like, fuck, why does this guy get a degree even though he didn't do nearly as much work as I did? What I'll say is you have to have faith that the work that you put in made you a better person, made you a more intelligent person than the person that didn't do the work. And what you'll see from like some of this Japanese culture is it's not about certificates, it's about the work. It's about the discipline. And I'm gonna ask you questions within Jiro that have specifically to do with what was his relationship with his children like? And how did you feel in the beginning about his relationship with his children? And how did you feel at the end of the movie with the relationship with his children? Also, how did you feel about the way he discussed the fishing industry and what's going on with the ingredients? Did that change a little bit of your perspective about the food and what you eat and what you consume? But to me, Jiro and Sixto Rodriguez, both of these individuals, both of these men, are people that are both older now, that did not have easy lives growing up, but who became masters in their field through hard work, dedication, and discipline. And their strengths and their abilities are now world-renowned. And is there a part of you in my class that wants to become well-respected for what you do? And if you want to become well-respected for what you do, you have to put the work in, you have to put the effort in, is all I'm saying. So this afternoon, I'll put up the questions for those movies. So far, there's been 6 movies that I've assigned since the quarantine has happened, and including these 2. So please watch them, and we're going to have about another 4 or 5 before the semester is over, right? And then I'm going to give you your final online. Also, if you missed the first test, I'll give you an opportunity to make up that test online at the end of the semester. Guys, there is no final essay that I'm going to ask you to write. There's no final paper. And all the take-home tests, obviously, you could be home and you can just look up the answers on the internet. But what I want you to do, what I'm really going to grade a lot of this stuff on, is the movies, that you're watching the movies and that you're answering the questions sincerely. Okay? I was very disappointed at the number of people that have answered the questions. I want you to catch up. Okay? I want to see like everybody is mostly done with the previous 4 by next week and have even started these 2, Jiro, I Dream of Sushi, and Searching for Sugar Man this week. Okay, guys, it's about 20 minutes. I'm going to let you go start watching the movies. You can find the links on Blackboard or Top Hat under the documents where I said the remaining movies and links for the rest of the semester. Okay, guys, all the best. Wishing you the best. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.